Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to see you again. My name is Dustin Cormier, and welcome to How to Rock Astrology. This is my new astrology website. I was working before through How to Rock Spirit, and it's nice to see you today. Today we're going to talk about Mars in Leo, specifically for this video. And as you watch in the series, we're going to see the rest of the series talks about what it's like when you have Mars in Leo, plus the other 12 combinations of the sun signs. Pleasure to see you today. If you'd like to see a little bit more of me in any regard, feel free to check me out on my website, dustincormier.net. You can also see my new book. It's all psychedelic and erotic. And this is a glimpse at my chart. If you'd like to see it in the Western, at least the main figures in my chart. Leo Ascendant, Scorpio Sun, Sagittarius Moon. It's usually just to give a little bit of some kind of background as to the person delivering you the information that you're about to hear. Something I always like to consider whenever I'm watching YouTube videos. So, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you today. I'm just going to do a little scoopy moopy here because I'm a Leo and my hair's got to be ever so perfect. So, hopefully me being a Leo rising engages you guys in this video to be more engaged in a Mars-like way. So in this series, I've been trying to, it's part of a bigger ploy on my part to inform Western astrologers and people in the Western Hemisphere, or, you know, I'm in the Western Hemisphere. I'm in Canada, close to Toronto. But I'm very interested in the Veda, in Vedic Astrology. I've been studying it under RYAN KURCZAK'S, and I am trying to bring the Vedic Gnosis to the West to show what Vedic Astrology can tell us about Western astrology. But for anybody watching, this is a Western-based book coming from Western sort of ideals. I just like to add the Vedic spin to it. So, today's information is generally going to be coming from Erotic Astrology, The Sex Secrets of Your Horoscope Revealed by Phyllis Vega. Got this book on Amazon. It's been doing me pretty well in terms of the erotic. I've been trying to run the line in these videos talking about what Mars is to the Sun. This book in particular actually talks about the erotic nature of when a Mars sign is combined with the Sun sign in your chart. The reason is because Mars and the Sun are very much connected. We can say that the Sun is the king of the chart, of the soul. And Mars is the general, the strategizer, the ergonomical sense that we have of how we can pull together the resources and use the resources at our disposal to do what the king wants. Sometimes the general and the king are not, sometimes they're at odds. Sometimes you can have a square or something like that going on, or the Sun can be in a sign that doesn't jive with Mars. But we always have to learn what is the nature of our Mars sign in order to help us express whatever is the desired nature of the Sun sign, right? Now, to have Mars in Leo is a cool place because Mars is in Vedic astrology. Leo is a trine. It's part of the fire triangle with Mars and Jupiter. Sagittarius, Leo, and Aries are the three fire signs. So Mars has a natural aptitude in another fire sign, Leo. It's friends with the Sun. So this is an all right placement in a lot of regards. One thing I would like you to consider, this is shared in the Western as well as in the Vedic sense, is that Mars is debilitated in Cancer. Now, some Westerners might think, oh, well, it's only in Cancer, right? So since it's not in Cancer, since my Mars is in Leo, my Mars isn't debilitated. Well, in the Vedic sense, we consider that anywhere close to Cancer is a tough place for Mars, generally. The reason is because the closer a planet is to Cancer, the more a planet looks within itself and expresses itself from within itself. The discipline of Mars, when it's close to Cancer, including in Leo, the discipline of Mars is very, very much looking at the spirit of the self, the nature of the self. The discipline factor of Mars is trying to ennoble the spirit of the person, which is, it has a good place in the sense of being connected with Leo. Not so much with the moon. When it's in Cancer, it's in an ugly spot. But in Leo, Mars still has this inclination to express its discipline, express itself through what the person is. Not necessarily what they involve themselves in. Mars is exalted in Capricorn. And it means the best place for Mars is in Capricorn and anywhere close to Capricorn. Because in Capricorn, that's where there's a density. There's it's closer to the Earth, and Mars's discipline can see what its discipline is doing. And in the erotic sense, Mars has an easier time being erotic when it's closer to Capricorn, because it's seeing something outside of itself, and it's using its sexuality without taking it personally, without thinking too much about what it itself is. It's understanding itself. These are when Mars is in Capricorn, it knows its needs, it knows its desires, and it can grasp them without too much personality, too much attachment to how they do. They're objective. They're detached from their job, from how well they do. When Mars is in Leo, the person's Mars really gets energized and amplified when there's this element of ego and personality involved. The person needs some kind of egoic embellishment in order to feel most vitalized, most sexy, most aggressively in its state of absolute power. Which can be a frustrating thing, because when the cards are not in your favor, Mars is going to have a tougher time. When the cards are not in your favor socially, this could be a jealous sort of lover in a way. Mars being in Leo has the capacity to have some sense of jealousy, some sort of fixation with the object of its desire. Mars in all the fixed signs tends to kind of have this fixation on... It's like Mars is a deeply satisfying expression of our sun nature. When Mars is in a fixed sign, it loves to express the sun's ambitions and desires, the person's ambitions and desires. So if Mars is in Leo or any fixed sign, it wants to latch onto something that will continue to energize it, that will secure it, so that the sun always feels like there's a general Mars working to ambitiously draw forth the ambitions of the sun and of the spiritual purpose of the person. Anything that connects with Mars in everybody generally helps us to express our highest spiritual desires and the best thing that we can project ourselves to be. That's the sun, right? Mars is the general of the sun. Mars is the expressor of the sun. And that's why this book combines them together. These two, Mars and the sun, are like two sides of the same coin almost, in the same way that we could say that Venus and the moon are also two sides of the same coin, same dimension of our psyche. So it is frustrating that Mars is usually at its best when it's just going on its own. Mars looks to express its ardent desires through something. When Mars is closer to Capricorn, it does it in reality and in objectivity. It doesn't look at, it looks at its relationship and wants to cultivate it and discipline it and be disciplined for it. When Mars is in Leo, Mars expresses this desire to use ambitious energy through people. It can almost be manipulative. It wants to see the love and admiration coming from other people. Of course, if anybody has anything in fire signs, if you have like the moon in a fire sign, as long as it's not getting aspected by the Mars in Leo, if your partner has a fire rising sign or a fire sun sign, then the Mars in Leo, other people can appreciate this almost jealous Mars in Leo nature. Nothing is really bad per se. It's not, in this case, it is not the natural expression of Mars, but there are good sides to it because, again, it's in a fire sign. Mars is good friends with the sun. So the Mars here is ennobled to express the best parts of the person in order to get what it wants. And it can be fiery and lively. Anybody who has Mars in Leo uses leonine characteristics to get what it wants in a fixed way, and oftentimes in a very cool, confident, passionate, devout, even glamorous way. You know, these are all cool things. It's a good place for Mars, aside from the fact that it can be ego driven. In some ways, you've got to use this ego drivenness as part of expressing your Mars, and it could be painful when you don't have your partner latched with all their attentions to you all the time. It's almost like no one can satisfy you in a certain way because you so much enjoy this romantic thing, and romance energizes you. So if you've got a good fifth house, if you've got a good seventh house and a good partner, these kind of things can help the Mars in Leo feel energized. Notice that Leo's the fifth sign, and the fifth house resonates with Leo. If your fifth lord is well placed, then this will give a good, an easy way for Mars in Leo to express, to find a channel for expressing Mars's desire to be satisfied, desire to acquire love, or to acquire anything that they want in life. So, now that we've heard my little riff on it, let's take a little reading at what our book says about Mars in Leo. This is specifically about Mars in Leo, coming from Erotic Astrology by Phyllis Vega. Mars in Leo. Although Mars in Leo is noted for its fiery physical energy, you manage to shine in mental and practical arenas as well. At times, your leonine ego and deep-seated need for recognition make your emotional energy seem somewhat restrained. It's almost like you have a conservative backbone. It's like you can't really let go and express your emotions to the deepest unless someone is like, "Ooh, you are a nice, lovely lover." Then it's easy for you to give it out. Which is kind of antagonistic, again, to the nature of Mars, because the best Mars is what it is vital, without needing or depending on anything, without depending on its ego being embellished. But here, the person is at its strongest when somebody is petting the kitty. But when you do pet the kitty, it becomes, there's lots of energy there. So, your leonine ego and deep-seated need for recognition make your emotional energy somewhat restrained sometimes. But the Martian lion projects an air of self-confidence, self-sufficiency, and vitality that causes other people to sit up and take notice. People with this placement are inherently ambitious and dramatic and adore being center stage. Mars in Leo couples positive initiative with stability and determination, producing excellent leadership qualities. Proud, principled, and idealistic. You detest small-mindedness and disloyalty. In all things in life, you follow your heart. You make a warm and generous friend, lover, or relative, but you demand undivided devotion, understanding, and admiration in return. And it probably frustrates your capacity to even to help people, to help yourself, to do what you want in business when somebody tells you no, which is something you got to deal with sometimes. The lion enjoys sex more than most, as long as heavy doses of love and romance are part of the package. As an affectionate, physically demonstrative lover, you take great pride in your sexual prowess and are easy to arouse. Your ideal mate radiates warmth and shows affection in a physical way. You're likely to be even more interested if a potential partner is rich, famous, powerful, or gorgeous, and thus able to reflect glory onto you. It shows at some level this sort of funny ego-drivenness of Mars and Leo, although you can't take that wholesale, because there are plenty of spiritual people who detach themselves from the need for social recognition and still can do great aspirations outside of just the desire to be loved and admired, right? But at some level, you should just take this desire to be loved and admired for what it is. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's one of those things that you can just balance with all the other dimensions of your chart. And you can even enjoy it, you know? As much as it bolsters your ego to have several sexual partners, you tend to stay constant in love as long as your partner pays plenty of attention to you and remains devoted. That was from our book. Shows just a lot of just the way that this Mars in particular is. As I said, it's definitely a step up from Mars in Cancer. There is the ego factor relating to passion and one's ability to feel vitalized is a key part of this Mars, as we're going to see in the next part of this series. I'm going to end this video here, and if you feel like it, in the next part of the series, you're going to be able to find your combination of your Mars and Leo with one of the 12 sun signs. And I'm going to consider the sun's debilitation and exaltation, what the two are like together, and all these things. So check that out in the next video if you'd like. Thanks for watching, folks. I'm Dustin Cormier. Hope you enjoyed it.